So, a few days ago, Microsoft announced the public preview of a native IPAM, or IP address management, in Azure. And having a good IPAM is pretty much crucial as your infrastructure grows in size, whether that be a multi-cloud environment, hybrid, or Azure only, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you have overlapping IP address spaces. That could get you some trouble when wanting to have, stuff connecting to each other. If you already know what an IPAM system is and have been looking for one in Azure, chances are you have stumbled upon the Azure IPAM earlier on. This is not the same. The Azure IPAM, link is down in the description if you want to check it out, is a build-it-yourself kind of system, where you end up with a couple of app services, a storage account, Cosmos DB, and so on. This new IPAM is simpler, both in setup and functionality, and it lives within the Azure Virtual Network Manager. So, in this video, I thought I'd tell you more about this new IPAM, show you how it works, and how you can test it out for yourself, and later on in the video, we'll also take a look at the downsides of it, and some cases where I don't think it'll be the right tool for you. Or maybe it will. Sound good? Let's get to it. Alright, so keep in mind that, like I said initially, this new IPAM was only announced in public preview a few days ago. So that means that it will have a few quirks to it, or bugs as you might also call it. And that by the time you watch this video, things might have changed a whole lot. Anyway, so this new IPAM is less a service in Azure and more a feature you can opt to make use of. It is part of the Azure Virtual Network Manager, so that also means that in order to make use of this new IPAM, you have to use Azure Virtual Network Manager, which isn't a bad thing, mind you, but it also means that in order to get all of the automatic goodness that the new IPAM brings, your VNets need to be managed in a virtual network manager. It'll probably be easier to just show you stuff as we go along here, so I have made a small demo environment for this occasion. Later on, I'll show you how to, get this set up yourself in a matter of seconds. Anyway, I have a resource group here containing a single VNet and a virtual network manager with IPAM set up. So if you go into our network manager here, you should see IP address management on the left side here. If you don't see it, it might be because your network manager is deployed in a region that doesn't support IPAM yet. Or, as it happened to me, you need to actually deploy an address pool once first. Anyway, let's go into IP address pools here. And here you can see that I have one single pool set up already named IPAM pool. It has an address space and it has some statistics like address count and IP allocation and so on. Clicking on my pool, I'm taken to a pretty default kind of Azure space where you get all kinds of information about the resource. But what is interesting here is what's hiding under allocations on the left side here. Here we can see some of the same info that we saw on the list of pools, but in addition you get to see all the items that have allocations within this pool. And as you can see, my single VNet is here and it has grabbed a whopping 256 addresses. You can also see at the top here which address spaces are already taken and which ones are available. And if you look closely at the list of available address spaces, you will notice that it groups up the largest ranges that it can. So while it says that I only have 3 available address spaces left, I can of course split those up again if I so choose. So from this base, if I close this on, from this page, I can create new allocations, either by associating a resource or allocating what they call a static sitter block. And that last part here is basically if you want to reserve addresses for stuff that is not in Azure and thus cannot be automatically picked up by this IPAM tool. That will typically be your on-prem environment or AWS, GCP, or any other cloud provider, for example. So that is how this new IPAM looks. But you haven't seen the coolest part yet, because if I now go back to my resource group and try to create a new virtual network, I'll show you something neat. So virtual network and create, of course, subscription resource group, give it a fine and dandy name. And then if I go to the IP addresses tab here, I have a nifty little toolbox. Allocate using IP address pools. If I check that, I can just select my IPAM pool, hit save, and now I only have to select the size of my address space for that VNet and details of any subnet, of course. But that is the only thing I need to consider, the size of the address space. So I can set that to a /24, hit review and create, and then create, and then wait a couple of minutes. And then I can go back into my resource group, into my IPAM pool, and under allocations, you can see that I now have my demo VNet here. It has been allocated the 10.0.1.0/24 address space. So that's kind of cool. Another thing you can actually do here is to create, child pools as well. If I click create here and then child pool, I can give it a name and select the IP addresses that I want to assign to it. And this is kind of neat if you're looking to delegate a pool to another team or something along those lines. Okay, cool. That's it for the demo for now. But before we move on to the downside of this IPAM, I just quickly want to mention that if you want to try this out for yourself, I have created a very simple bicep template that will give you the exact demo environment that I started out with. It is on my GitHub page, and a link to it is also in the description, of course. Last time I deployed it, the deployment took about 18 seconds, so it's a fairly quick way to get check this new IPAM out. Anyway, moving along to some of the downsides of this feature, the new IPAM. You might already have catched some while watching the demo, but in case you didn't notice, this tool is mainly for those doing ClickUps. I did toy around with Bicep in preparation for this video, and I must admit that I expected the experience in creating a VNet to be somewhat similar to what you saw in the portal when you have this IPAM deployed. With that, I mean that you only have to input the size of the address space and perhaps a pointer to the pool, but at least for now, you still have to actually specify the address space you want. So if you are doing infrastructure as code, this doesn't give you that much yet. While toying around with this new feature, I also did encounter some issues in associating VNets, creating and deleting pools, and so on. But it could be that I was just a bit too eager, as this was the same day as it launched, and I have not really seen those kind of issues after that day. But it is important to keep in mind that this is a preview and it is not production ready as of yet. Still though, I feel it's a pretty great start. And like I also mentioned, it's quick and easy to try this out with the Bicep template that I made. But if you need an introduction to Bicep, go check out my video that covers that right over here. It covers what you need from literal scratch to deploying your first Bicep template in Azure. As always, I hope you found this video helpful and that you click like, subscribe, share it, and also leave a comment. Even just an emoji, it helps. See you later on. Cheers.